Welcome back to the Old Photo Vault channel. The angels kept their watch. St. Agnes Church Crypt, Massachusetts, 1894. On Sundays, Mrs. Calder walked past the small coffin on her way to light candles, careful not to disturb the dust that had settled like a second skin. The angels cast in dull metal seemed modest enough. Their faces softened by time, their hands folded in patience. The plaque named Eleanor Calder, age 7, taken by fever during a winter that emptied half the town of children. People said the coffin had been built too fine for such a small body, as if her parents hoped elegance might persuade her to stay. Years later, the caretaker noticed the dust never gathered evenly. The angels nearest the plaque were always cleaner, their wings faintly warm to the touch. When asked, Mrs. Calder only smiled and said, Eleanor disliked being forgotten, and if you stood still long enough, you could hear the smallest movement inside, like a child shifting to get comfortable. The Cell That Remembered. Eastern State Penitentiary, Philadelphia, 1932. The photograph shows an ordinary cell. 2 bunks, a thin mattress, a blanket folded with care, a toilet that never quite flushed right. Guards used to say this one was easier than most. The men assigned here slept quickly, ate quietly, and rarely complained. The paint peeled the same way every year, no matter how often it was scraped and repainted, as if the walls preferred their older colors. Records mention a prisoner named Thomas Hale, sentenced for theft, forgotten by everyone except his mother, who sent letters until the war took her paper ration away. He slept on the lower bunk and left the top empty. After his death, inmates refused the upper bed, saying it sagged at night. In the photo, the blanket hangs over the edge, pressed down slightly as though someone climbed up after lights out and never climbed back down. The Tower That Waited. Blackwood Forest, Virginia, 1911. At first glance, the tower looked like a hunting folly, the sort of brick structure built for leisure and later abandoned when fashions changed. Local families picnicked nearby, careful not to let children wander inside. The doorway stayed open year-round, as if it had forgotten how to close. Leaves gathered neatly at the threshold, but never crossed it. County records list the tower as an observation post, commissioned by Edwin Mercer, a widower who believed the forest hid patterns only visible from above. He climbed the stairs each evening to take notes until one autumn night when he did not come down. The stairs were intact, the railing unbroken, his notebook still open to a blank page. Now the windows remain dark, even at noon. Birds refuse to nest in the upper ring, and visitors report the quiet sensation of being counted, as though someone inside is still watching, patiently waiting for the forest to arrange itself into meaning. The Angels Who Took Turns. San Miguel Cemetery, New Mexico, 1947. The photo was taken after evening prayers, when the caretaker locked the iron gate and counted the candles still burning. The small white shrine belonged to Rosa Alvarez, buried at 4 years old after a winter cough that never loosened. Her mother paid extra for the angels, insisting they be children too, so Rosa would not feel alone. During the day, the statues look ordinary, their wings chipped, their faces worn smooth by weather. But at night, the caretaker noticed the shadows changed. One angel's arm would seem lower than before, the other leaning closer to the cross, as if tired. Fresh footprints sometimes appeared in the dust between the grave and the shrine, too small to belong to anyone living. Rosa's mother said children do not sleep all at once. They wake, they wander, they need watching. The angels, she believed, simply took turns, because someone always had to stay with her after dark. The Figure in the Window. Mercer Curiosity Shop, Ohio, 1926. At first, the photograph looks like a display gone wrong. A plaster figure posed behind glass, arms folded as if cold, hair unevenly trimmed by a careless hand. The shop sold oddities, hats, masks, things no one admitted wanting. And this figure was said to be a study in anatomy, borrowed from a medical school that had closed quietly. Customers paused before it, unsettled but unsure why. Then moved on. Mrs. Mercer dusted the window every morning and swore the figure never gathered grime on its face. She said it was polite that way. Once she found a faint smear on the glass, the shape of fingers pressed from inside, though the door had stayed locked all night. In later photographs, a second face appears faintly in the reflection, alive, watching. The shop closed soon after. The figure remained. Some things, Mrs. Mercer said, learn where they are seen and refuse to be moved again. The shade she left behind. Oak Ridge Funeral Parlor, Wisconsin, 1939. The lamp stood in the corner like a thoughtful guest, its shade stitched from pale, uneven pieces that softened the light. Visitors assumed it was an antique, the sort of morbid curiosity common in old funeral parlors, and no one asked what it was made from. Mrs. Ellison polished the base every morning and kept the lamp lit, even during the day, saying the room felt colder without it. Her sister Clara had worked there for years, quiet and precise, famous for her steady hands. When Clara died, Mrs. Ellison insisted on keeping something close, something useful. The shade was finished shortly after, sewn carefully, lovingly, as if meant to last. People noticed that the light shifted when they spoke certain names. Sometimes, beneath the seams, a faint outline appeared, suggesting a cheek, a brow, a familiar curve of attention. Mrs. Ellison said nothing. She only turned the lamp slightly, so Clara could see everyone who came in and make sure they behaved properly. The shape above the fridge. Keller family basement, Minnesota, 1956. The photograph shows an ordinary basement kitchen, the kind meant for summer canning and quiet meals when the house upstairs was too warm. A small refrigerator hums beneath a bare ceiling light. Bread sits on top, wrapped loosely, as if someone planned to return. Nothing looks disturbed. Mrs. Keller said the basement always felt occupied, even when she was alone. She blamed it on the low ceiling, the way sound lingered. When the photo was developed, her sister noticed the shape first. A pale outline standing on the refrigerator, taller than the cabinets, its edges blurred like steam. It seemed to lean forward, watching the sink. They remembered then that Mrs. Keller's mother had fallen down the basement stairs years earlier, breaking her neck while carrying supper below. After that, food spoiled quickly unless someone stayed nearby. And at night, the refrigerator hummed louder, as though working harder, careful not to be left alone with whatever still stood waiting above it. The woman behind the glass. Harlan Family Living Room, Kentucky, 1999. It looks like an ordinary snapshot from a weekend night, the kind taken after a few drinks when everyone was too relaxed to tidy up. The man leans against the cabinet, confident and unremarkable. The room crowded with glasses, a blanket folded badly over a chair, decorations left up too long. Nothing about the moment seems staged. The problem is the reflection. Behind the glass cabinet, just left of his shoulder, a woman stands where no one remembers standing. Her face is pale and calm, her hair dark and straight, her shirt printed with a year that had already passed. She's not blurred the way reflections usually are. She looks finished. The family later said the room had felt crowded that night, though only one guest had come. They assumed it was noise, memory, the way houses hold sound. But when the photo was shown around, no one asked who the woman was. They asked instead why she looked so familiar, and why she seemed to be waiting for someone to notice her again. The face in the tunnel. Red Hollow Mine, West Virginia, 1923. At first, the photograph shows only the tunnel. Narrow rails disappearing into dark, the stone walls sweating faintly under the lamp's glare. It was taken during a safety inspection, long after the mine had closed, when nothing was meant to be down there except dust and old tools left behind. The men said the place smelled the same as it always had. Metal, damp earth, something faintly human. They didn't notice the face until the photo was developed. It appears in the rock ahead, where the tunnel bends, formed by shadow and fracture, yet unmistakably watching. The eyes sit too evenly. The mouth seems almost careful. Records list a miner named Jacob Rowe, lost during a collapse when the supports failed. His body was never recovered. Old miners said the mountain learned his shape, and if you stand still long enough in Red Hollow, the tunnel does not echo your breath back. It listens, as if waiting to be remembered before letting you pass. The Child Who Missed Recess. Willow Creek Playground, Ohio, 2003. The photo was taken after a birthday party when the parents were loading minivans and the park lights hummed back on. The playground looks ordinary enough. Plastic slides, yellow rails, gravel raked smooth by the city that morning. It had been empty all evening. Everyone agreed, too cold for lingering. Later, someone noticed the child beneath the platform. A small figure stands between the bars, pale and patient, hands folded the way children do when told to wait. The face is calm, almost polite. No blur, no hurry. Old neighbors remembered a girl named Lillian, who slipped away during recess years earlier, unnoticed until the bell rang and she didn't come back. Searches ended politely, then quietly. The playground was replaced, repainted, reopened. Parents say children sometimes pause there now, staring into the empty space under the stairs. When asked why, they shrug and say someone is still waiting for the bell to ring, and it hasn't yet. The piano that learned her shape. Cypress Grove, Louisiana, 1974. At first, it looks like a careless photograph of abandonment. An old upright piano left outdoors, its keys warped, a tree grown straight through its middle as if claiming it by accident. People said it had belonged to a woman who played on Sundays. Light pieces meant for open windows and slow afternoons. When the house was sold, no one wanted the piano. It was too heavy, too personal. Over the years, the wood darkened and split, and the bark pressed deeper into the frame. Visitors sometimes noticed a pale shape in the grain near the lid, where the tree leaned hardest, like a face half remembered. The keys beneath it no longer moved, but they stayed clean, as if brushed by habit. Locals said the woman used to practice under these trees when the house felt too quiet. Now, when the wind shifts the branches just right, the piano does not play, but it listens, holding her outline carefully, the way music holds a pause long after the sound has gone. The boxes that wouldn't stay quiet. St. Bridget's Mortuary Storage, England, 1912. At first, it appears to be nothing more than a storage room. Brick walls sweating with age, shelves stacked neatly with small wooden boxes meant to be temporary. Each one is labeled, handled, and then forgotten, waiting for families who never returned. The caretaker said the room smelled of dust and soap, a clean place for unfinished arrangements. When the photograph was examined later, someone noticed the carving on one box looked wrong. The wood grain seemed to gather into features. Eyes set too close, a mouth pressed thin, as if holding something back. No one remembered that marking being there before. Records list a Jane Foss, infant, placed on the second shelf after a winter outbreak that filled every spare space. The boxes were moved often, but hers was always heavier when lifted. The caretaker said it settled poorly. Sometimes, late at night, the room sounded crowded, like small knocks traveling shelf to shelf, asking quietly not to be stacked so close together again. The Man Between the Branches. Pine Hollow Preserve, Vermont, 1988. At first, it looks like an ordinary winter photograph, taken too late in the day when the woods turn flat and colorless. Bare branches knot together, the ground dark with thawing snow, nothing arranged for a picture except the trees themselves. The photographer said he stopped only because the path seemed narrower than he remembered. When the film was developed, there was a face where no person had stood. It appears low between the branches, calm and watchful, as if resting there. The expression is not frightened. It looks patient, almost relieved to be seen. Local papers once mentioned a man named Arthur Bell, who walked these woods every evening after his wife died, following the same loop until one winter he did not return. Searchers found no tracks beyond the trees. Now hikers sometimes slow at that bend, feeling observed without threat. The woods feel fuller there, as though someone has finally learned how to stay without moving on. The Woman Who Never Left. Old Mill Jailhouse, Tennessee, 1909. At first, the room looks like a careful museum display. A wooden chair pushed politely to the side, a heavy door left ajar so visitors can peer in without stepping too close. The chains hang loose, no longer needed, their iron dulled by decades of air and touch. It is the sort of place guides describe with dates and facts, nothing more. Only later does the photograph suggest another presence. Beyond the open door, past the bars, a woman sits low against the stone wall. Her shape is soft, unfinished, as if the light forgot to complete her. She does not reach for the door. She only waits. Records mention a woman named Margaret Lowe, held overnight for disturbance, then forgotten during a transfer when the jail closed. The door was locked. Morning came and went. Now visitors say the room feels occupied, not threatened, just patiently observed, like someone still expecting her name to be called. The Extra Armful. Alder Ridge Woodshed, Maine, 1996. At first, it looks like a practical winter photograph. The shed is full, the light clean and cold. The woman dressed for work, holding firewood the way people do when they've done it 100 times before. Snow clings to the pile, the ladder leans where it always has. Nothing feels staged. Only later does the second shape become clear. Behind her right shoulder, just inside the line of the wall, a pale figure stands where no one remembers standing. It is taller than the woodpile, thinner than a shadow. Its outline softened, as if it has already learned the shape of the place. It appears to be holding something too, though nothing is visible in its hands. The woman said the shed was built by her grandfather, who split wood there every winter until the year he didn't come back inside. After that, the pile never seemed to shrink the way it should. She said she never minded. Some work, she believed, was meant to be shared, long after everyone agreed it was finished. The goal that counted twice. Riverside Stadium, Northern England, 2004. At first, it looks like a harmless celebration. The striker spreads his arms toward the stands, blue shirts rising to meet him, mouths open in the practiced joy of a goal that came just when it was needed. The night lights bleach the moment clean. Someone claps too hard, someone drops a scarf. Nothing unusual insists on itself. Later, when the photo is passed around, a small inconsistency appears in the crowd behind him. Between two cheering men, a face looks back without cheering at all. It is pale and steady, the eyes fixed not on the pitch, but on the player's name across the shoulders. The scarf around the neck is an older style, the smile missing. An usher remembered a boy who used to stand there every match, rain or shine, until a winter collapse closed that section for repairs. The boy never came back. Yet, season after season, the seat fills at the instant of a goal, as if someone still believes the game should know he was there. The aisle that stayed open. Night Market, number 7, Eastern Europe, 2011. The photo looks ordinary at first. A narrow grocery aisle, shelves crowded with tea and coffee, fluorescent lights humming softly overhead. It was taken just before closing, when the clerk was counting the till and the store felt briefly private, like a kitchen after guests leave. Everything is faced forward, tidy in the way night shifts demand. Only later does the blur near the floor become noticeable. Between the shelves, low and unfinished, a figure seems to stand where no shopper should be. Its outline is thin, almost erased, as if it belongs to a different hour entirely. The camera didn't catch a face, only the suggestion of legs waiting. The clerk remembered an old man who came every night for tea, always too late, always apologizing. One winter, he stopped coming. Now the automatic doors hesitate before closing, and this aisle never quite empties. The lights stay on a few seconds longer here, as if the store has learned that someone still hasn't found what they came in for. The dress that brought someone else. Belmont Grand Hotel, France, 1998. At first, it seems like a theatrical portrait taken after midnight, when the ballroom was empty and the lights were kept low for atmosphere. The woman sits confidently, costume arranged just so, heels planted, a cane resting against the rug as if she has practiced this pose. The hotel staff said the room was cold but quiet, perfect for photographs. No one noticed the face at her hem until later. Beneath the black tulle, near her ankle, a second face appears. Small, pale, and watching upward, as though trapped in the folds of fabric. It is not part of the costume. It does not belong to the moment. Old records mention a chambermaid named Elise, who vanished during renovations decades earlier. Last seen carrying dresses from room to room for a gala that never happened. The model said she felt tugging at the skirt all evening. A careful, familiar touch. She assumed it was the weight of the fabric. The photo suggests someone else was still helping her get dressed. Some of these images may be tricks of light, age, or coincidence. And some refuse to be explained so easily. If you noticed something unsettling before we mentioned it, or saw something we didn't, leave a comment and tell us what you saw. Do you believe these photos captured more than just a moment in time? If stories hidden in old images fascinate you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us. Because the past doesn't always stay silent, and sometimes it's still watching.